You know, when I was posted as coal secretary government of India, at that point in time, I didn't know much about the coal sector. So I rang up a friend of mine. मैंने कहा यार ये सेक्टर कैसा है? तो उसने जवाब तो दिया नहीं, एक प्रश्न कर दिया मुझसे पूछा गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर देखी है क्या? You know, that said everything because I'd seen that movie and I knew what mafias can do, could do, and that's precisely what they were doing in coal. But you know, as I walked into the office of coal secretary for the first time.
So एक एक करके बात करते हैं. I'll start off with your stint in the government of India first. One thing that you are known for is your stint as coal secretary. That's first thing that comes to mind. I remember this is 2014 when the current Modi government came into power. The coal sector was in a mess, to put it mildly. The CAG had intervened, the Supreme Court had intervened, all the coal block allocations have been kind of cancelled. No bureaucrat wanted to get in the coal ministry to put pen on paper because everyone kind of feared the CBI, the ED and all of that. And you were almost handpicked by the government at the time, by the Prime Minister's office at the time, to clean up this mess. Right? So firstly, what was your first reaction when you got this assignment? What was the mess? What was the real mess?
You know, when I was posted as coal secretary government of India, at that point in time, I didn't know much about the coal sector. So I rang up a friend of mine. मैंने कहा यार ये सेक्टर कैसा है? तो उसने जवाब तो दिया नहीं, एक प्रश्न कर दिया मुझसे पूछा गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर देखी है क्या? You know, that said everything because I'd seen that movie and I knew what mafias can do, could do, and that's precisely what they were doing in coal. But you know, as I walked into the office of coal secretary for the first time, I felt I was walking into a graveyard. Because CBI was after files, after officers. More than anything else, there was total lack of trust. There was total lack of confidence. But having evolved as an officer who had faced not exactly this situation, this was probably the worst of the lot, I thought यार स्थिति अब इतनी खराब है, अब और तो खराब होगी नहीं, अब जो होगा अच्छा ही होगा. So I can walk away with that credit. So with that frame of mind, I got into the department, and by God's grace, I had an absolutely amazing team. I mean, we used to jokingly say, after having sorted out the coal mess, which I'll tell you how we did it, we used to jokingly say, give us the Kashmir problem, we just might be able to solve it. When I came over here, as was my habit, I wanted to analyze the cause of the problem. Everyone thought it was the coal block allocation that was the problem. So when I tried to understand the issues here, मुझे समझ में आया जो सबसे गंभीर समस्या थी कि ये जो कोल ब्लॉक एक्शन में गड़बड़ी हुई वो क्यों हुई? वो इसलिए हुई कि कोल की कमी थी. Had there been no shortage, there would be no mafias, there would be no coal block allocation. So the cause of the problem was shortage of coal. Then I went to the next layer. Why is there shortage of coal? समस्या क्यों है? I discovered that India sits on 300 billion tons of coal and we required only about 800 million tons per annum. So there was sufficient coal available. So why then is there a shortage of coal? We went to the next layer. And the next layer was that though coal was available, land acquisition was a major issue. So there were three primary problems. There were other problems also. जो प्रमुख समस्याएं थी, there were three. That is land availability, because land acquisition was a serious issue. Then most of this coal existed in forested areas. So getting forest and environment clearance. And third, because of the location of the coal, evacuation of coal was very, very difficult. So we then went to the next layer. How do I solve the problem of land acquisition? How do you fast track forest and environment clearance? How do you evacuate coal? And for that, probably I did things which I would not have imagined earlier. As coal secretary, I did not convene a single meeting in Delhi. All these meetings were held at the state level because I came to the conclusion very soon that most of the problems are there in the field. So I have to go there and talk to them. And that really helped. People ask me, if you were to point out one action that you took was critical in solving the coal mess, it was this one. Not to call secretaries of the state government to Delhi, but going down to the states, meeting with the chief ministers, chief secretaries, and I could convey a value proposition to them. What was in it? I mean, this is very fundamental. For finding solution to any problem, first one has to look at the why of the problem, and then when you identify the stakeholders, you have to convey a value proposition to those stakeholders for them to do what you want them to do. So I'll give you an example here. I mean, there are many problems in the state, but I think One of the biggest problems was with West Bengal government because the West Bengal government was up against the central government for whatever reasons, good, bad or ugly. Now, how do you get land for coal block mining, for coal mining from a state like West Bengal? Totally, they were going hammer and tongs at each other. So what I did was I spoke to the Chief Secretary, then went over to Calcutta, had a chat with him, and I had a piece of paper with me in which I had written how much the state government is losing per day by way of revenue, by way of direct and indirect employment, by not giving me the land which is not being put to use otherwise. So somehow I managed to convince the Chief Secretary. I don't know what he did to the Chief Minister. We got the land. So I'm giving you just one illustration to convey to you how a difficult problem like coal, because I remember in the beginning, there was total maramari. The chaos was to an extent that I used to get calls from chief ministers.